The Blackwood Institute of Fine Arts gleamed like a cut diamond against the mountainside. Light pooled across its marble floors and bounced off the crystal chandeliers hanging from 30-foot ceilings. Eliza Chen stepped through the grand entrance, whole for the first time, clutching her worn messenger bag against her side, feeling terribly underdressed in her thrift store blazer and practical flats. "You must be the new administrative assistant," said a tall woman with silver-streaked hair. Pulled into a severe bun, she didn't offer her hand. Her eyes performed a quick assessment, lingering briefly on Eliza's scuffed shoes. "Yes, I'm Eliza. It's my first day." Her voice came out softer than intended. "Marguerite Voss, Dean of Music. Follow me." She turned, without waiting for a response. Eliza hurried after her, sneaking glances at the portraits lining the corridor. Famous musicians, composers, and benefactors who'd helped build the Institute's storied reputation. The hallway opened into a magnificent performance space where a string quartet was rehearsing. Their music washed over her like a gentle wave, and she closed her eyes involuntarily, feeling the notes vibrate through her body. "Miss Chen, this way, please." Marguerite's voice snapped her back to reality. The administrative team doesn't have time for daydreaming. In the administrative wing, Eliza was shown to a small desk tucked into a corner. Her supervisor, a harried man named Trevor, barely looked up from his computer. "You'll handle correspondence, scheduling, and filing. Nothing complicated. The faculty relies on accurate calendars, so don't mess up." He slid a binder toward her. "Procedures manual. Read it today." By lunchtime, Eliza had organized 3 file cabinets and answered dozens of emails. She slipped away to the staff lounge, where several employees were gathered around a table. "Is this seat taken?" she asked, gesturing to an empty chair. A woman with kind eyes nodded. "I'm Diana, Development Office. You're the new admin, right?" Eliza, "Yes, just started." "Fair warning," said a bearded man across the table. "The Winter Gala's coming up. You'll be drowning in details soon." "Marcel's composition is headlining this year," added Diana, nodding toward a man entering the lounge. Marcel Renaud radiated confidence. His tailored suit complemented his lean frame, and his dark hair fell artfully across his forehead. Several people at the table straightened as he approached. "Marcel," Diana called, "meet Eliza, the new administrative assistant." He glanced at Eliza briefly. Charmed. "Diana, did you get my note about the program changes?" "Not yet, but I emailed it yesterday. I need those changes approved by tomorrow." His French accent thickened with annoyance. "I'll check my inbox right away," Diana promised. "See that you do. The piece will be the highlight of the season. We can't afford mismanagement." He looked pointedly at Eliza. "New staff should remember that excellence is our only standard here." After he left, the table fell silent. Eliza stared at her sandwich, appetite gone. "Don't mind Marcel," Diana whispered. "He's brilliant, but temperamental. Youngest composer in residence in the Institute's history." "What's the gala like?" Eliza asked, trying to change the subject. "Only the biggest event of the year. Wealthy donors, famous alumni, performances from top faculty. Very elegant." Diana smiled apologetically. "Very formal." Eliza nodded, thinking of her limited wardrobe, and wondering if she'd made a terrible mistake accepting this job. That afternoon, Trevor sent her to deliver sheet music to the practice rooms. She navigated the maze of hallways, passing students, who barely registered her presence. From behind closed doors came the sounds of violin scales, operatic vocal exercises, and piano arpeggios that made her fingers twitch involuntarily. She found the last practice room empty, except for a magnificent grand piano. The lid was raised, revealing the intricate inner workings. Without thinking, she set down her papers and touched one key gently. The note hung in the air, pure and perfect. "That's not a toy," came a sharp voice from the doorway. Eliza jumped, back as if burned. Marcel stood watching, her eyes narrowed. "I'm sorry, I was just delivering papers, I presume. Not touching instruments worth more than you'll make in a year." He crossed the room and closed the piano lid with a decisive click. "Administrative staff have no business in the practice spaces unless specifically required. Do I make myself clear?" "Yes, of course, I apologize." Heat flooded her face as she gathered her papers. "I thought so," he sighed dramatically. "Please inform Diana that I've rescheduled my session with the quartet to Thursday, and try not to disturb any more instruments on your way out." Eliza walked quickly down the hall, her chest tight with humiliation. She should be used to this by now, being dismissed, overlooked. It shouldn't hurt anymore, but it still did. 2 weeks later, Eliza had settled into a routine. She arrived early, stayed late, and kept her head down. She learned the faculty's preferences, anticipated needs before they were stated, and became practically invisible, a quality that seemed valued in administrative staff. One evening, as she was finishing up, she heard music from the main hall, a haunting melody that pulled her like a magnet. She found the doors to the performance space ajar and slipped inside, standing at the back to watch. Marcel sat at the piano, completely absorbed in his composition. His fingers moved with fluid precision, building complex harmonies that filled the hall. The piece was undeniably brilliant, technically stunning, but something about it felt hollow to Eliza, like a perfect shell with nothing inside. She must have made a sound, because Marcel suddenly stopped playing and turned, eavesdropping. "Now?" His voice echoed in the empty hall. "I'm sorry, I heard the music and couldn't resist intruding." He closed his music book. "What did you think? Not that your opinion matters particularly." Eliza blinked, surprised by the question. "It's technically impressive." "Technically impressive," he repeated, eyebrows raised. "How diplomatic. Are you a music critic now as well as an assistant?" "No, the piece will be the centerpiece of the gala. The trustees specifically requested me to compose something that showcases the Institute's commitment to innovation while honoring classical traditions." "It certainly does that," Eliza said carefully. Marcel studied her. "You don't like it." "Didn't say that. You didn't have to." He stood. "Tell me, Miss Chen, what musical education do you possess that qualifies you to judge my work?" Several faculty members entered the hall then, saving Eliza from answering. She slipped away as Marcel greeted them, her hands trembling slightly. Back at her desk, she gathered her things quickly, wanting only to escape to her small apartment where no one looked at her with contempt. As she passed the dean's office, she heard Marguerite's voice. "The gala is in crisis. Madame Fournier has cancelled her performance, doctor's orders." 3 weeks before the event, came another voice. "Impossible to replace her. We need another pianist, someone who can perform the Rachmaninoff without making a spectacle. What about Marcel? He could—" "Out of the question. His composition. Here's the highlight. We need someone else." Eliza hurried past, not wanting to be caught listening again, but the conversation followed her home, playing in her mind as she made dinner in her quiet apartment. She thought of the piano in the practice room, of Marcel's dismissive gaze, of the music that had once been the center of her life. Before sleep, she opened her closet and pulled out a small wooden box from the highest shelf. Inside lay her mother's jade pendant, wrapped in a faded program from the Beijing Conservatory of Music. She ran her fingers over the embossed name, Eliza Chen, Senior Recital. Then she closed the box and put it away. The next week brought increasing tension as the gala approached. Faculty members snapped at the slightest inconvenience. Donors called constantly with special requests, and Trevor assigned Eliza to the decoration committee, adding hours to her already long days. She was arranging centerpieces in the main hall when Marcel stormed in, followed by Marguerite and several other faculty members. "This is unacceptable," he was saying. "The entire program must be restructured if Fournier isn't performing." "The invitations have been sent, Marcel," Marguerite replied. "We've found another pianist for the Rachmaninoff." "Who? Not that hack from the university, surely?" "Sofia Petrova has agreed to step in." Marcel's laugh was cold. "Sofia hasn't performed publicly in 3 years. She teaches children now." "She's an institute alumna and supremely qualified," Marguerite said firmly. "She's a has-been who will butcher the piece." Marcel ran a hand through his hair. "This is precisely why I left Paris, to escape mediocrity masquerading as artistry." Eliza accidentally knocked over a vase. Water spilled across the table as everyone turned to look at her. "Sorry," she mumbled, quickly mopping up the mess with napkins. Marcel's eyes narrowed. still eavesdropping, Miss Chen. I'm working on the decorations, she said, gesturing to the centerpieces. How fortunate we have such multi-talented staff, he said sarcastically. Perhaps you should play the Rachmaninoff since you have such refined opinions on music. Diana, who'd just entered, stepped forward. Marcel, that's unnecessary. Is it? His gaze never left Eliza. Tell me, Miss Chen, can you even read music? Do you know Rachmaninoff from Rimsky-Korsakov? The hall had gone quiet. Faculty members, staff, and even a few students waited for her response. Eliza felt heat rising to her face. I should get back to work, she said quietly, gathering soggy. Napkins. Marcel's smile was triumphant. As I thought, some of us dedicate our lives to mastery, others arrange flowers. That night, Eliza couldn't sleep. Marcel's words echoed in her mind alongside older voices, her mother's gentle encouragement, her teacher's exacting standards, the competition judges' praise, and then the accident, the hospital bills, the scholarship that vanished when she couldn't perform, and finally, her deliberate retreat into anonymity. She'd spent 7 years building a life without music at its center. 7 years pretending that her hands were meant for typing, not Tchaikovsky. At 3 a.m. she got out of bed and did what she hadn't done in years. She placed her hands on the kitchen counter and played an invisible piano, working through the Rachmaninoff. From memory, feeling the stretch between notes, the weight needed for each key, her fingers remembered everything her mind had tried to forget. The day before the gala, disaster struck again. Sofia Petrova called to cancel. A family emergency had taken her out of the country. The administrative office devolved into chaos. As Marguerite held emergency meetings with the trustees, "We have to cancel the Rachmaninoff," Trevor told Eliza as she sorted through RSVPs. "Help me draft an announcement for the program." Later that afternoon, as Eliza was delivering updated schedules, she overheard Marcel arguing with Marguerite in the practice room. "It's impossible to find another pianist this late," Marguerite was saying. "The piece must be included," Marcel insisted. "It's a tradition. The donors expect it. Unless you can conjure a concert pianist from thin air, we have no choice." Eliza should have walked away. She should have delivered her papers and disappeared back into comfortable invisibility. Instead, she knocked on the open door. Both turned to look at her with identical expressions of irritation. "Excuse me," she said, heart hammering. "I couldn't help overhearing." "Of course you couldn't," Marcel muttered. Eliza took a deep breath. "I can play the Rachmaninoff." The silence that followed was absolute. Then Marcel laughed, a genuine laugh of pure amusement. "You?" he asked. "The administrative assistant who arranges flowers." Marguerite looked embarrassed. "Miss Chen, I appreciate your enthusiasm, but this is hardly the time for jokes." "I'm serious?" Eliza's voice grew stronger. "I studied at the Beijing Conservatory. I can play it." Marcel's smile faded. "The Beijing Conservatory? You expect us to believe that?" "Check my personnel file. It's in my background." Marguerite frowned. "I don't recall seeing that." "I didn't emphasize it. I haven't performed in years." "For good reason, I imagine," Marcel said. Eliza met his gaze directly. "Let me audition. Right now. If I can't play it, you've lost nothing." Marguerite looked uncertain, but Marcel gestured grandly toward the piano. "By all means," he said. "Entertain us." Eliza set down her papers and approached the instrument. 7 years since she'd touched a real piano. 7 years of silence. She sat on the bench, adjusted its height, and placed her hands on the keys. For a terrible moment, she thought she'd forgotten how it felt. Then she began to play. The Rachmaninoff Piano Concerto No. 2 poured from her fingers as if no time had passed at all. The familiar notes filled the room, complex, emotional, demanding. She played without sheet music, her body remembering what her mind had tried to forget. The tension in her shoulders melted away as she lost herself in the music, building to the first movement's powerful crescendo. When she finished that section, she stopped, hands hovering above the keys. The room remained silent. She turned to find Marguerite staring, mouth slightly open. Marcel's face had gone pale. "That's impossible," he whispered. "How?" Marguerite began, then stopped. "Why didn't you tell us?" Eliza stood, suddenly self-conscious. I don't play anymore, not professionally. Clearly that's not true, Marguerite said. You play beautifully. A parlor trick, Marcel said, recovering. The first movement is well known. Can you play the entire concerto? Yes. Prove it. Marcel, Marguerite warned. No, he's right to question it, Eliza said. It's been years. I should practice before committing. Marguerite checked her watch. The gala is tomorrow night. Can you be ready? Yes, but I'll need today to prepare. Take the day off. Use any practice room. Marguerite turned to Marcel. Unless you have a better solution? His jaw tightened. One mistake tomorrow, and you'll never work in this industry again. I'm aware of the stakes, Eliza replied quietly. After they left, she remained at the piano, trembling slightly. What had she done? 7 years of careful anonymity shattered in an instant of pride. But as she began to play again, working through the more challenging passages, something long dormant awakened inside her, a sense of purpose, of joy. Word spread quickly through the institute. By afternoon, Eliza noticed people finding excuses to walk past her practice room, slowing to listen. Diana brought her lunch and coffee, eyes wide with amazement. Why didn't you tell me? She asked. All this time, you were a concert pianist. Almost. Eliza corrected. I never quite made it. But you're incredible. I heard you from the hallway. Eliza smiled faintly. I had an accident, broke my wrist badly. By the time it healed, my scholarship was gone and my mother was sick. Life happened. And now I'm terrified I've made a huge mistake. Diana squeezed her shoulder. Play like you did this morning and you'll be the star of the gala. The night of the gala arrived with a flurry of activity. The institute transformed into a glittering wonderland of lights, flowers, and champagne. Wealthy patrons in evening wear mingled with faculty in formal attire. Eliza watched from backstage, wearing a simple black dress borrowed from Diana. The program progressed smoothly. Student ensembles, faculty performances, speeches from trustees. Then came the announcement that Madame Fournier had been replaced by Institute staff member Eliza Chen. Whispers rippled through the audience. Marcel performed his composition next, receiving enthusiastic applause. As he left the stage, he passed Eliza, waiting in the wings. Don't embarrass yourself, he murmured. Then it was her turn. Walking to the piano felt like moving through water. The lights blinded her momentarily as she took her seat, adjusted the bench, and nodded to the conductor leading the small orchestra. The hall fell silent. Eliza placed her hands on the keys and began to play. From the first notes, she knew this was different from her practice sessions. This was why she had once lived for performance, for the electric connection between musician, instrument, and audience. Her fingers danced across the keys, drawing emotion from deep within the music. The first movement built to its powerful conclusion, flowing seamlessly into the second movement's poignant melody. She forgot about Marcel, about her years of hiding, about everything except the conversation between her hands and the piano. Marseillaise. Final movement arrived with its thunderous energy, technical challenges that once terrified her, now feeling like joyful expressions. When the last chord resounded through the hall, Eliza remained frozen, eyes closed, reluctant to break the spell. The silence lasted only a moment before the audience erupted. They rose to their feet, applause crashing like waves. Eliza stood, light-headed and trembling, to take her bow. Through the bright lights, she could see Marcel in the front row, unmoving amidst the standing ovation, his face a mask of disbelief. Backstage was chaos. Faculty members who'd barely noticed her before now pressed forward with congratulations. Students asked if she would teach master classes. Donors inquired about her background, her training, her future plans. Diana hugged her tightly. You were magnificent. I've never heard anything like it. Marguerite appeared, looking slightly dazed. Miss Chen, Eliza, that was extraordinary. Several trustees wish to speak with you at the reception. I need a moment, Eliza said, overwhelmed. In a quiet corridor, she leaned against the wall, eyes closed, heart still racing. Footsteps approached and she opened her eyes to find Marcel standing before her. You lied, he said without preamble. I never lied. I just didn't tell the whole truth. You deliberately concealed your abilities to what end? To humiliate me tonight? Not everything is about you, Marcel. His face flushed. You've been judging me, my work, this entire time, pretending to be some nobody. I was never pretending to be nobody, Eliza said quietly. I was pretending to be someone else. There's a difference. Why? He demanded. If you can play like that, why work as an assistant, arranging flowers and delivering papers? Eliza studied, him seeing genuine confusion beneath his anger, because sometimes life takes unexpected turns, she said finally. And we adapt. That's not an answer. It's all you're getting tonight. She straightened up. I should return to the reception. He blocked her path. The trustees will offer you opportunities now. Performance spots. Maybe teaching positions. Perhaps. You should decline. Eliza raised an eyebrow. Why would I do that? One successful performance doesn't erase years of inactivity. You're rusty, unprepared for a real career in music. Are you concerned for my welfare or your position? His jaw tightened. I've worked my entire life for this career. You abandoned yours, and now think you can step back in whenever you please. I didn't abandon anything, Eliza said, her voice hardening. I survived. There's a difference. She moved past him, but he caught her arm. Everyone loves a surprise performance, he said, but sustaining a career takes more than one night of applause. I'm well aware. She gently removed his hand. Now, if you'll excuse me, apparently I have trustees to meet. The reception was a blur of introductions and champagne. The chairman of the board insisted on hearing Eliza's story, which she edited carefully. The conservatory training, the injury, the career change. She omitted the desperate poverty after her mother's illness, the scholarships that evaporated, the painful physical therapy sessions she couldn't afford to continue. By the time she slipped away, it was past midnight. The institute was quiet. Most guests departed, clean-up crews working silently. Eliza found herself drawn back to the main hall, now empty except for the piano still on stage. She sat down and played softly. Not Rachmaninoff now, but Chopin, a nocturne her mother had loved. The gentle melody filled the empty space. That's actually better than the Rachmaninoff. Eliza didn't stop playing as Marcel walked onto the stage. The Rachmaninoff is a showpiece, she said. This is a conversation. He sat on the edge of the stage, watching her hands. The chairman offered, "Your special performance series." He mentioned it. Are you going to accept? Eliza finished the piece before answering. I don't know. You should. She looked up, surprised. That's a change of heart. Marcel shrugged, not meeting her eyes. Your performance tonight was illuminating. High praise from the Institute's star. Don't. He ran a hand through his hair. I behaved poorly. I made assumptions. Yes, you did. You could have corrected those assumptions at any time. Eliza closed the piano lid gently. Why would I? You were determined to see what you expected. An administrative assistant who didn't know Rachmaninoff from Rimsky-Korsakov. Exactly. They sat in silence for a moment. Finally, Marcel spoke again. Why did you stop playing, really? Eliza considered deflecting, then decided on honesty. I broke my wrist in 3 places. The doctors said I might never play professionally again. My mother got sick while I was recovering. Medical bills, no income. She shrugged. I made choices, but you can clearly play now. Yes, though my right hand still aches in cold weather. Physical therapy helped eventually. So why not return to music sooner? Eliza stood, suddenly tired. Because starting over is hard. Because rejection hurts. Because sometimes it's easier to be invisible than to fail publicly. You were never invisible, Marcel said quietly. Not really. No? No. You have opinions. Perspective. The first time, we spoke about my composition. You said it was technically impressive. Not moving, not beautiful. Technically impressive. I shouldn't have... You were right. His admission seemed to cost him. It's technically perfect and emotionally hollow. I knew it, but no one else would say it. Eliza didn't know how to respond. This vulnerability was unexpected. What will you do now? He asked. Go home. Sleep for about 12 hours. Then decide about the chairman's offer. You should take it. Perhaps I will. She gathered her things. Good night, Marcel. 6 months later, Eliza sat in a sunny office at the Blackwood Institute, reviewing applications for the summer intensive program. Her title, Artist in Residence and Special Programs Coordinator, still felt strange, but the work didn't. After accepting the chairman's offer, she'd negotiated for a position that combined administrative skills with musical expertise. A knock at her door revealed Marcel, looking uncharacteristically casual in a sweater rather than his usual tailored suit. The faculty committee meeting is starting, he said. Thought you might have lost track of time. Thanks, I'll be right there. She gathered her notes. How's the new composition coming? Slowly. I've scrapped it twice already. That's progress. The old Marcel never scrapped anything. He smiled slightly. The old Marcel was afraid of imperfection. They walked together toward the conference room. Students nodded respectfully as they passed, no longer seeing just an administrative assistant or an intimidating composer, but two artists with different paths. Will you play at the spring showcase? Marcel asked. I'm considering it, Diana thinks. I should. Diana is right. He held the door for her. The world needs to hear what you can do. Eliza paused before entering the meeting. Coming from you, that means something. It should. I'm extremely difficult to impress. She laughed. A genuine laugh they both remembered was once rare. Inside, faculty members were gathering, including Marguerite, who nodded approvingly as Eliza took her seat at the table. This was where she belonged now, not hidden away, not defined by others' assumptions, but present and visible, her voice joining the conversation. Later, alone in a practice room, Eliza played a new piece, one Marcel had composed and shyly asked her to review. It was different from his earlier work, more authentic, less concerned with technical showmanship. As her fingers traced the melody, she realized it contained fragments of Chopin's Nocturne, the one she'd played that night after the gala. A conversation, not a monologue. Sometimes talent hides because it must, waiting for the right moment to emerge, and sometimes people hide behind their talent, afraid to be seen for who they truly are. But when both the talent and the person stand revealed in the light, something new becomes possible, not just music, but harmony,